The judge asked, "Who do you want to live with?" And my niece looked straight at me, not at the woman who had given birth to her. She was 12, old enough to know that the answer would break someone's heart. She swallowed, wiped her nose on the back of her hand, and said one word. "Auntie." My sister, sitting on the other side of the courtroom, made a sound I will never forget. Half scream, half sob. "Those are my kids," she shouted, standing up. "You stole my kids." The bailiff told her to sit. The judge's gavel came down. My niece started crying for real then, and so did I, because there is no way to win in a moment like that. There is only the least amount of losing. If you are watching this right now, tell me in the comments where you are watching from. USA, Canada, the UK, Australia, or somewhere else. And think about this as you listen. If you had to choose between the person who gave you life and the person who kept you alive, who would you pick? My name is Diane. I am 58 years old. When people ask me if I have kids, I usually say, I helped raise my sisters. It's an easier answer than the whole truth. The whole truth is that for 10 years, I was mom in everything but name to 2 children who were not legally mine. I went to their school plays. I took them to the doctor. I stayed up with them when they had fevers. I signed permission slips. I taught them how to ride bikes and how to say sorry. The first time any of them said, "I love you, Mom," it was to me. The first time any of them said, "I hate you," it was also to me. That's how you know you're a real parent. The love and the hate come to the same address. Their real mother, my younger sister, was a ghost who showed up when she needed something and vanished when she didn't get it. I used to think I could change that. That if I just loved hard enough, worked hard enough, forgave enough, she would become the person her children deserved. I was wrong. Some people are storms. You can build walls, you can buy umbrellas, you can dance in the rain. You cannot make the storm into sunshine by hoping. I am the oldest of 3. Then there's my brother, Michael. Then there's my sister, Jenna. When we were kids, Jenna was the wild one. The one who would climb too high, run too fast, say the thing everyone else was afraid to say. My mother used to sigh and say, "That girl will break my heart one day," as she watched Jenna swing from a tree branch or stomp away from the table. My father would shake his head and say, "She'll be the one who needs the most help." He wasn't wrong. He just didn't know the help would come from me. I was always the responsible one. The one who babysat. The one who got good grades. The one who calmed fights. When our parents got sick, it was me who took them to their appointments and sorted their pills. When our father died, it was me who organized the funeral. When our mother's mind started slipping, it was me who found the memory care home. Not because my siblings were evil. Because they knew if they waited long enough, I would step in. There is always one of us in every family. If you know you are that person, write, "I'm the one" in the comments. It doesn't make you better. It just makes you tired. Jenna had her first baby at 22. A little girl with big brown eyes and a full head of hair. I was 30 then, still single, working as a school secretary. I remember the first time I held my niece. She wrapped her tiny fingers around mine, and something in my chest expanded. "You're an auntie now," Jenna said, grinning. She looked tired but proud. At that moment, I believed she would grow up. That this baby would be the anchor that held her in place. For a while it seemed like that might be true. Those first years, Jenna tried. She got a job at a coffee shop. She kept the baby fed and mostly clean. She came to family dinners. She had bad days, sure. Times when she'd show up late to pick her daughter up from me, eyes red, hair wild. Times when she'd ask to borrow money, just until payday. But there were also mornings when I'd drop by and find her on the floor, playing with blocks, singing silly songs. "See," she'd say, "I can do this." I wanted more than anything for that to be true. Then came the second baby. A boy. Less planned than the first. "It just happened," she said, shrugging when she told us. The father was different this time. A guy named Tyler who liked tattoos and hated responsibility. He came to the hospital the day the baby was born, held him awkwardly and said, "He looks like me." Then he disappeared a few months later. No child support. No visits. Just a name on a birth certificate and some photos on Jenna's phone. With 2 kids, Jenna's thin control started to slip. The job at the coffee shop didn't last. "They're out to get me," she said. "They don't understand what it's like to be a single mom." I believed her at first. I'd watch the kids whenever she had a shift, whenever she had a date, whenever she had a bad day. At some point, whenever turned into always. She'd call at 11 at night. "They're driving me crazy, can you take them for a bit?" She'd show up at my door with 2 sleepy, cranky children and a bag of clothes that never had enough underwear. I never said no. Not once. I told myself I was helping. I was. I was also slowly softening the consequences of her choices. The first time I realized something else was going on was at one of those late-night drop-offs. I opened the door expecting tired kids and a frazzled Jenna. I got that. I also got a smell that made my stomach turn. Sharp. Chemical. Not just weed. Something else. Her pupils were huge. Her movements jerky. Are you okay? I asked, taking the baby from her arms. He clung to me like a koala, fingers digging into my shirt. I'm fine, she snapped. Just tired. The little girl tugged at my sleeve. Mommy was sleeping on the couch and wouldn't wake up, she whispered. I had to give brother his bottle. She was 4. After I put the kids to bed in my spare room, I sat Jenna down at the kitchen table. What are you using? I asked. No more guesses. No more pretending. Don't start, she said, rolling her eyes. You're not Mom. No, I replied. Mom is in a home because her brain is broken. I'm the one sitting here with your kids asleep in the other room. So I get to ask, what are you using? She laughed, a hard, bitter sound. It's just a little something to take the edge off, she said. I'm under a lot of stress. You have no idea. Pills. I pushed. Something stronger? She crossed her arms. You going to call the cops on me? She asked. You going to take my kids away? That question was like a knife. No, I said quickly. I'm trying to help you keep them. Then back off, she said, standing up. I came here because I needed a break, not a lecture. She grabbed her purse. Where are you going? I asked. Out, she said. You have them. They're safe. You should be happy. It's what you always wanted, isn't it? Your own little family without having to get a husband. The cruelty in that line stunned me. She left, slamming the door. I sat at my table, the letterhead of Mom's facility peeking out from under a pile of mail, and thought, this is not going to end well. It didn't. Things got worse slowly at first, then all at once. Jenna's visits became less frequent and more chaotic. Sometimes she'd show up, play with the kids for an hour, cry, promise to get clean. Sometimes she'd vanish for weeks. The kids started staying with me temporarily more and more. Temporary turned into the school calling my number first. Into doctors putting my name on forms. Into the kids calling my house home, without being corrected that I tried, more times than I can count, to get her to go to rehab. I'll watch the kids, I said. We'll manage. Just go. She would always say, I can't leave them. What kind of mother would I be? I wanted to say, one who might actually be able to come back. Instead, I said, we'll figure it out together. But together requires 2 people moving in the same direction. She was moving toward something else. The first time Child Protective Services knocked on my door, I thought I was going to throw up. The woman at the door had a clipboard and a kind but tired face. I'm here about Jenna's children, she said. We've had a report. My heart pounded. They're here, I said quickly. They're safe. Come in. She sat at my kitchen table and asked questions. How often were they with me? How often with their mother? Had I seen drug use? Neglect? Abuse? I answered as truthfully as I could without throwing my sister under every possible bus. I said, she loves them. She's just sick. She can't always show up. I've been trying to fill the gaps. The worker nodded. We see that a lot, she said. You're their aunt. Yes, I said. I'm the one who gets the calls from school. From the doctor. From Jenna's landlord when she can't pay rent. Do you want to be their guardian? She asked. That question made my throat close. I don't want to take them from their mother, I said. I want her to get better. Wanting those 2 things isn't always compatible, she replied gently. Sometimes the best way to help a sick parent is to make sure the kids are safe without them for a while. We talked for a long time. At the end, she said, for now, we'll make a safety plan. They'll stay with you officially. Jenna can have supervised visits. If she completes rehab and shows stability, we can revisit. It sounded cold. Clinical. Like a pamphlet. But underneath it, I heard something else. We are about to ask you to become, on paper, what you have already been in practice. That night, I sat with the kids on the couch. They were 8 and 6 then. We watched a cartoon. Halfway through, the girl, Lily, paused it with the remote. Auntie, she asked. Yes. I said. Are we going to live with you forever now? She asked. My heart ached. You'll live with me as long as you need to, I said honestly. Will Mommy come? Her little brother James asked, eyes big. She can visit, I said. But she has to work on some grown-up things first. They nodded, accepting this. Kids adapt because they have no choice. If you've ever had to explain adult failure to children in words they can sleep on, you know how hard it is to find sentences that don't shatter them. If you know that feeling, right? I translated in the comments. So many of us are translators for pain. Becoming their legal guardian was both easier and harder than I imagined. Easier in that the paperwork, once set in motion by CPS, moved through the system. The judge at the first hearing looked at me over her glasses and said, "You've been doing the job. We're just giving you the title." Harder in that Jenna was there in the back of the courtroom, eyes red, jaw clenched. When the judge said, "Temporary guardianship to the maternal aunt," Jenna burst into tears. "She's stealing my kids," she sobbed. "It's not fair." She always thought she was better than me. After the hearing, in the hallway, she ran up to me. "You think you've won," she spat. "You think you're their real mother now." "No," I said quietly. "I think I'm trying to keep them from bouncing between couches and cars and shelters. I'm trying to give them one stable place." "They're mine," she hissed. "You can't have them. I'll get them back, you'll see. And when I do, they won't even remember you." That last threat lodged like a splinter under my skin. "They won't even remember you." I knew it wasn't true, but some part of me feared it anyway. Years passed. Temporary guardianship turned into long-term. Lily and James grew up under my roof. Their childhood became a string of small, ordinary moments. School lunches, scraped knees, homework battles, Christmas mornings, teenage eye rolls. Jenna floated in and out. Sometimes sober, hopeful, eyes clear. Sometimes not, eyes glazed, hands shaking. When she was stable enough, I'd let her come over and spend time with them. We'd sit at the table together, an awkward triangle. She'd bring gifts she couldn't afford. The kids would be excited at first, then wary when she didn't keep her promises. "I'll take you to the zoo next week," she'd say. Next week would come. She wouldn't up. By the time Lily was 12 and James 10, they called me Mom, at home without thinking. In public, they'd sometimes slip and then correct themselves. "This is my aunt," they'd say to teachers, then glance at me apologetically. I would smile and say, "It's okay." Inside, the word mom warmed me and scared me. I was not their mother, but in every way that mattered day to day, I was. When Jenna was sober, that fact broke her. One afternoon, she came over clean, hair washed, wearing a dress I hadn't seen since before the kids were born. We sat in the living room while the kids did homework at the table. "They call you Mom, don't they?" she asked out of nowhere. My stomach clenched. "Sometimes," I said carefully. "They know who you are." Tears filled her eyes. "I did this," she said, voice cracking. "I ruined it. I know that. But it still kills me." She looked at me. "If I get better, really better, will you give them back?" The way she said "give them back" made me feel like I was holding something on loan. "I can't decide that alone," I said slowly. "They're old enough now that their feelings matter. The court will listen to them. And I have to think about what's stable for them." "So that's a no," she said, standing up. "You're going to keep what you stole." She grabbed her bag and left before I could answer. "If you're still here, you can see where this went." She didn't stay better. Not then. She relapsed. Worse. There were overdoses. Hospitalizations. Jail once for shoplifting. Through it all, the kids watched me. Watched how I answered the phone. Watched how I went to see her in ERs and cheap rehab centers. Watched how I came home, tired and sad, and still made dinner. One night, Lily asked, "Why do you keep trying, Auntie? Doesn't it hurt?" I thought about lying. About saying, "It doesn't, I'm fine," like so many of us do. Instead, I told the truth. "It hurts," I said. "But she's my sister. And she's your mother. I can't fix her. Only she can decide to get better. But I can decide not to hate her while she tries and fails." Hate would stick to me. I don't want that on us. That answer wasn't perfect. But it was the best I had. And then, one year, when Lily was 16 and James 14, Jenna did get better. Really better. At least, that's how it looked. She checked herself into a long-term rehab. She stayed. She did the program. She went to therapy. She called regularly, but not too much. Her voice sounded clearer than I'd heard it in decades. When she got out, she moved into a sober house. Got a job at a thrift store. Went to meetings every day. Everyone held their breath, waiting for the crash. It didn't come. Not right away. For the first time when she came over, the kids didn't flinch. They asked her questions. About her life. About why she had been gone so much. She didn't make excuses. "I was sick," she said. "I made bad choices. I hurt you. I'm sorry." I watched their faces soften. Hope is a dangerous thing. But it's also necessary. Then one day, over coffee at my kitchen table, she said the words I had been dreading. I want them back. The room felt colder. They're not things, I said carefully. You can't just move them like furniture. They're my children, she replied. I have been working so hard to get better. I did everything they told me to do. I deserve a second chance. You do, I said. But second chances don't erase 10 years. They don't undo the bonds they've built here. They don't wipe my name off every school form and doctor's record. This is their home. It was supposed to be temporary, she snapped. You said you'd help until I got back on my feet. Well, I'm on my feet now. We went in circles. Love. Guilt. Rights. Responsibilities. Eventually she said, fine. If you won't do it the easy way, I'll do it the hard way. I'll go to court. I'll tell them you manipulated them, turned them against me. You always wanted to be the hero. Well, congratulations. You'll get to be the villain now. She did go to court. That's how we ended up back in that courtroom at the beginning of this story. Jenna petitioned to terminate my guardianship and regain full custody. CPS did their assessments again. The kids were interviewed. I was interviewed. Jenna's progress was documented. Her relapses were too. The judge looked at a thick file and a thin woman and a weary aunt and 2 teenagers caught in the middle. The worst part of that process was not what the lawyers said. It was what Jenna said in the halls and on social media. My sister stole my kids, she posted. She made them call her mom. She lied about me to get money from the government. People who didn't know the story believed her. People from school gave Lily and James looks. Someone scribbled "fake mom" on one of Lily's books. She came home, threw it on the floor, and sobbed. Why is she doing this? Why is she making it worse? Because hurt people hurt people. Because pride is louder than shame. Because when someone starts to stand on their own, the people who once leaned on them have to admit how much weight they put there. That is harder than blaming. By the time we stood in front of the judge that final day, I was more tired than I had ever been in my life. Tired of being the good one. Tired of holding the middle. Tired of being accused from both sides. But I was also clear. What do you want? My lawyer had asked me the night before. Not what you think is fair. In your gut, what do you want? I had thought about it. I wanted the kids to be safe. I wanted them to feel loved. I wanted them not to carry the weight of adult decisions on their backs. I wanted them to know they were allowed to choose their own stability, even if it hurt someone they loved. I want the judge to listen to them, I had said. Really listen. And so, when the judge asked Lily that question, who do you want to live with? And she said Auntie. My heart broke and mended at the same time. Broke because I could hear my sister's soul crack open behind me. Mended because I knew Lily was not choosing out of spite or manipulation. She was choosing the place where her life had been held gently and consistently. Later, James said the same. I want to stay with Aunt Diane, he said. I want to see Mom. I don't want to move again. The judge considered. She took a long time to speak. When she did, she said, Jenna, you have made admirable progress. Staying sober this long is hard. You should be proud of that. But sobriety is not the only factor in custody. Stability, history, and the expressed wishes of the children matter too. For now, I am leaving guardianship with Diane. We will expand your visitation. If you maintain your recovery, we can reassess when the children are older. You are still their mother. No one can erase that. But you are not their only parent. Those words were both mercy and knife. You are still their mother. You are not their only parent. Jenna sobbed. You're choosing her over me, she cried. The judge shook her head. I am choosing the children, she said. That is my job. In the years since, Jenna has stayed mostly in recovery. She has had slips. None as deep as before. Her relationship with the kids is complicated. Some days they text and laugh and send memes, whatever those are. Some days they don't speak. My relationship with Jenna is a thin line stretched over a canyon. Sometimes it holds. Sometimes it snaps. We tie it back together with apologies and silence. I don't know how our story ends. We are still in it. But I know this. I did not steal my sister's children. I did not erase her. I stood in the gap she left, not because I wanted to be a hero, but because there were 2 small people standing in that gap with nowhere else to go. When she came back and tried to pretend the gap had never existed, the truth was louder than her anger. If you have listened all the way to the end, I want you to hear this, especially if you are the aunt, the grandma, the friend, who has been raising someone else's children without the title. Your love is not less because your name is lower on the birth certificate. Your work is not less because someone else's DNA matches. You may never get the word mom officially. You may never get a judge saying you're a parent. But every bedtime story, every doctor visit, every "how was your day" you give is a brick in a foundation that child will stand on long after all this courtroom drama is dust. And if you are the Jenna in this story, listening with a knot in your stomach because you see yourself in her, know this too. You are not erased. If you are still breathing, there is still time to show up in better ways. Not by tearing down the person who held your children when you couldn't, but by becoming someone your children can trust will keep holding herself together. I raised my sister's kids like my own. When she came back, she tried to erase me. She couldn't. Not because I'm perfect. Not because I fought better. But because love that shows up day after day, year after year, through homework and heartbreak and holidays, writes itself into people in a way no one can legally cross out. When people hear that story, they think that was the end. The kids chose. The judge ruled. I walked out of the courthouse with them on either side of me, and my sister walked out alone. Roll credits. But real life doesn't end when the gavel falls. It just moves into a quieter kind of hard. After the hearing, life didn't suddenly become easy. Lily and James went back to school and had to face classmates who had seen what their mother posted online. "My sister stole my kids," she had written. Some parents believed her. Some didn't. Kids repeated what they heard at dinner tables. "Is it true your aunt brainwashed you?" One girl asked Lily in the cafeteria. "My mom says blood is blood, and you should be with your real mom." Lily looked her in the eye and said, "My real mom is the one who packs my lunch and shows up. You can tell your mom I said that." When she told me that later, I felt equal parts pride and heartbreak. No 16-year-old should have to craft defenses like that. But she did. And she did it with more grace than most adults I know. James reacted differently. He got quieter. Spent more time in his room. I'd knock and find him staring at the ceiling, headphones on, eyes red. "You okay?" I'd ask. "Yeah," he'd say automatically. "Just tired." I knew that tone. It was the same one I used when people asked me if I was okay. One night, I sat on the edge of his bed and said, "You don't have to protect me from how you feel, you know. I'm supposed to be the one who can handle it." He shrugged. I feel guilty," he said finally. "Like we betrayed her. Even though I know you're the one who was there for us, I keep thinking we broke some rule choosing you." "You didn't break a rule," I said. "You told the truth. Sometimes the truth makes adults very unhappy. That doesn't make it wrong." "She's my mom," he whispered. "I don't want her to think I don't love her." "Loving someone and letting them make all your choices are not the same thing," I said. "You can love her and still choose where you feel safe. That's not betrayal. That's survival." If you're still listening and that hits something in your chest, maybe because you've had to choose one unsafe person over another, right? "I chose safety" in the comments. It doesn't mean you didn't love. It means you stayed alive. Jenna and I tried to talk a few times after the hearing. Tried is the right word. Some conversations lasted 3 minutes before we slipped back into old fights. Some lasted an hour and ended with both of us crying quietly into our coffee. "I know I messed up," she said once, eyes on her mug. "I know I don't get to demand anything. When they look at you and call you mom, it feels like someone is pressing on a bruise inside me." "I didn't tell them to call me that," I said. "They chose it." I corrected them at first. It confused them more. "Why can't we call you mom when you do mom stuff?" they asked. What was I supposed to say? She sighed. "You were supposed to say no," she muttered. "You were supposed to send them back. Make me step up." "I tried," I said softly. 10 years ago. At some point, I had to choose between waiting for you to become ready and keeping them from drowning. I chose them. I don't regret that. I do regret that it hurts you this much. I can hold both. There is a strange thing that happens when you are the responsible one. People lean on you so long they forget you have bones that can break. They see you as a wall, not a person. My health started to show me that truth. In my early 50s, my doctor found something on a scan. "It's small," he said. "Early. With treatment, we have a good shot." The word shot made me think of needles and chemo and months of being too tired to cook, clean, drive, argue, or hold anybody up. I sat in his office and heard the echo of my father's voice from decades ago. "She'll be the one who needs the most help," he'd said about Jenna. Turns out, everyone needs help eventually. Telling the kids about my diagnosis was one of the hardest conversations I've ever had. Harder than telling them their mother had relapsed. Harder than telling them we were going to court. We sat on the couch, same place we'd done 100 other family meetings. "I have something to tell you," I said, hands folded so they wouldn't see them shaking. "It's not your fault. You didn't cause it. You can't fix it. But you should know. Their faces changed instantly. They'd lived enough life to hear the pattern. Are you sick? Lily asked. Yes, I said. The doctor found a little growth. It's called a tumor. It's small. They think they can treat it. I'm going to need some help while I go through that. Silence. Then James asked, Are you going to die? His voice was matter-of-fact. That made it worse somehow. Someday, I said. We all are. But the doctor doesn't think this is the thing that will do it, not if we catch it now. Still, I will be more tired. I might not be able to do as much for a while. They looked at each other. Then, without speaking, they both shifted closer, one on each side of me. We'll help, Lily said. We're not little kids anymore. You don't have to do everything. It should not take a possible cancer diagnosis for your children to realize you are a person, not an appliance. But sometimes big fear rips the curtains down that smaller warnings couldn't. Jenna found out, of course. News travels fast in families, even when people don't speak. She showed up at my door the next day, eyes red. You should have told me, she said. I found out from Mom's neighbor. She saw you going to the clinic. I haven't had time to tell everyone, I replied, exhausted. I've been busy being poked and prodded. Do you need anything? She asked, voice small. There it was. A new question. Not can you watch the kids? Not can you lend me money? Do you need anything? It hit me sideways. For a second, I didn't even know how to answer. I don't know yet, I said honestly. Probably rides to appointments sometimes. Maybe meals when I'm too tired to cook. Maybe help convincing your niece she doesn't have to fix this by getting straight A's. Jenna gave a wet little laugh. Perfectionism, she said. She gets that from you. She gets a lot from both of us, I replied. The good and the bad. Over the next months, something unexpected happened. Jenna showed up. Not perfectly. Not in a dramatic, now I am the hero way. Quietly. She sat with me during chemo sessions, flipping through magazines, sometimes just holding my hand while the drip went in. She brought casseroles the kids pretended to hate, and then 8 seconds of. She texted them, not just to ask about me, but about their own lives. How was your biology test? Did you get that part in the play? Send me a picture of your new hair. When she fell off the grid for a few days, my stomach still clenched. Old reflexes. But she always came back with a meeting chip and an apology instead of a hangover excuse. I went to more meetings, she'd say. I thought about drinking. I didn't. One afternoon, after a long treatment, I lay on the couch half asleep. I could hear voices in the kitchen. Jenna and Lily. The sound of plates clinking. Running water. You don't have to wash all this, Jenna was saying. Leave some for me. You did enough of that when we were little, Lily replied. Let me do something you don't have to fix. My eyes burned, and not from the medication. The dynamic had shifted. Slowly, but surely. For once, I was not the only one stepping in. My niece was taking some weight. My sister was too. The house felt less like a one-woman show that we never sat down and had a big forgiveness talk. Life doesn't always give you those moments. Instead, we had 1,000 small ones. Jenna showing up to drive me to an appointment when I was too nauseous to try. Me texting her a picture of a meeting chip and saying, I'm proud of you. Her showing up to James's graduation and sitting in the second row, behind me, not fighting for the front seat, just being there. Me scooting over on the bench so there was space for her in the family photo instead of cropping her out. None of it erased the past. It layered new memories over old scars. The scars stayed. They just weren't the only thing we could see anymore. When Lily graduated high school, she gave a little speech at a small family gathering in our backyard. Nothing fancy. Paper plates, fairy lights, the grill smoking. She stood up on the little step by the back door, held up a plastic cup of soda, and said, I want to say thank you. My heart leapt. People turned. Aunt Diane, she said, looking at me. Thank you for being there for every homework meltdown, every broken heart, every time I said I hated you and you didn't leave. Thank you for stepping in when someone else stepped out. Then she turned to Jenna. Mom, she said, using the word carefully but without sarcasm. Thank you for getting help. For trying again. For cheering me on even when it hurts you to see what you missed. I have 2 women to thank for who I am. That's more than most people get. Jenna cried openly. Not the jealous tears from the courthouse. Different ones. Surrender. Acceptance. Maybe even a little gratitude that if you're still here, this is what I want you to take from part 2 of this story. Sometimes there is no clean victory. Sometimes you don't get to be the only hero. Sometimes the best you can hope for is a life where everyone does a little better than they did the year before, And the children grow up knowing the full messy truth, and loving you anyway. I used to think if I just worked hard enough, I could save everyone. Save my parents from their aging. Save my sister from her addiction. Save the children from ever feeling abandoned. What I learned, lying in chemo chairs and courtroom benches, and on my own couch listening to my sister and my niece wash dishes, is that saving everyone was never my job. Showing up was. Holding the line was. Telling the truth kindly was. And letting other people face the consequences of their own choices was too. If you are the one who has been holding the whole family up for years, and you are afraid that if you ever get sick or sit down or let go, everything will fall apart, I won't lie to you. Some things might. Some people will stumble. Some plates will break. But you might also be surprised at who reaches down to pick up the pieces. You might discover that the kids you raised know more about love and resilience than you gave them credit for. You might see a sister you wrote off as a storm start to carry an umbrella for once. In the end, my sister did not disappear from our lives, and I did not get erased from hers. We both remain. Complicated. Flawed. Necessary. The court gave me a title. Life gave me two people who still, as adults, text me when they burn dinner or when they get a promotion. You were right about that teacher, one message said. You were right about not dating that guy, said another. I smile when those come in. Not because I like being right. Because it means I am still in their lives in the way that matters most now. Not as their only parent. As one of the people they trust. Love that shows up day after day, year after year, even limping, even tired, even sick, is not easily erased. Not by a judge. Not by a Facebook post. Not by a late apology. Not even by death. It writes itself into people in meals and rides and homework, help, and the way they hear their own inner voice later. And that, more than any title, is what makes you someone's real family. People like neat endings. They want to know that after the court case and the chemo and the graduations, everyone stayed exactly where they were. The aunt forever strong. The sister forever sorry. The kids forever grateful. Life does not care about neat. It keeps moving. People change jobs. They move away. They fall in love. They mess up again. They surprise you. If part 1 was about survival and part 2 was about repair, then what came next for us was something quieter. Something like real life. Lily left for college first. She got into a state university a few hours away. When she opened the acceptance email, she screamed so loud I ran from the kitchen thinking somebody had died. She waved her phone in the air, tears streaming. I got in, she cried. They want me. The words pierced me. Of course they did. She was smart. She was kind. She worked so hard. But some part of her, the part that had watched adults fail over and over, did not fully believe good things could land in her lap without being snatched away. Then let them have you, I said, pulling her into a hug. Go. See who you are without all of us around. Packing her up was like preparing a satellite for launch. Boxes of clothes, cheap plates, notebooks, fairy lights. She stood in the doorway of her childhood room, looking around. The posters. The shelf with trophies. The marks on the doorframe. It feels wrong to leave you, she said. You took care of me for so long. Now I'm just going. That was always the point, I replied. Raising kids isn't about keeping them. It's about teaching them how to leave without breaking. I don't want you to get sick again and be alone, she admitted, voice small. My latest checkups had been good. The tumor behaved. The meds worked. Still, cancer sits in everyone's mind like a shadow. I won't be alone, I said. I have friends. I have your brother. I even have your mother in her own way. You going to college is not abandonment. It's graduation. For both of us. Jenna came with us on move-in day. That might shock you. It still kind of shocks me. She helped carry boxes up too many flights of stairs. She made jokes about how dorms all smell the same. She hugged Lily and said, "Be better at this than I was. Please." Lily hugged her back. "You're here now," she said. That counts. Watching them, I felt something I never thought I would in that triangle. Relief. James took longer to find his path. College wasn't his thing right away. He worked at a hardware store for a while, then as a courier. He still lived with me for a few years after high school. I'll move out when I know where I'm going, he said. Is that okay? As long as you're not 35 on my couch playing video games all day, we'll be fine, I replied. Help with the groceries and don't pretend I can't hear you at 3 in the morning, I added. We made it work. He saved. He learned. One day he came home and said, I applied for a program. HVAC training. It's hands-on. They take people my age. That sounds perfect, I said. You'll always have work. People always need heat and air. He grinned. And it's honest work, he added. We've had enough of the other kind in this family. As they built their own lives, my role shifted. I was not the center of their schedules anymore. There were fewer parent-teacher meetings and more. Can you read over this lease? And, how do I know this contract isn't sketchy? I became the person they called when adult life threw them a form they didn't understand. It felt strangely full circle. My mother had warned me at my wedding about paperwork. I had ignored that advice and paid the price in my own ways. Now I was the one saying to them, read everything before you sign. And if you don't understand something, ask. Don't let anyone tell you don't worry about it, as the only explanation. Jenna's role shifted too. She found a steady job at a community center, of all places, helping other people in early recovery find resources. I feel like a hypocrite, she said once, telling people things I still mess up. You're not preaching, I told her. You're walking next to them. That's different. She went from being the storm to sometimes being the one handing out umbrellas. Not always. Not perfectly. She still had bad weeks. Times when she'd cancel plans and I'd feel the old panic rise. But then she'd call and say, I almost went to a bar. I sat in my car instead and called my sponsor. I'm sorry I didn't show. I didn't want to bring that energy into your house. That apology was a sign of growth I had stopped hoping for. One evening, when both kids happened to be home, we had all four of us in my living room. Me, my grown niece, my grown nephew, my little sister. We ordered takeout. It felt less heavy than family meals had in the past. No big announcements. No interventions. Just 4 people and some greasy containers. At some point, James looked around and said, Do you realize how weird we are? In what way? I asked. Most families have like one mom in the room, maybe a stepmom, he said. We've got my birth mom, my aunt mom, an honorary grandma and your upstairs neighbor who brings us soup, and Dad's mom who sends crazy Christmas cards from Florida. And somehow we're not completely messed up. Debatable, Lily said, smirking. Speak for yourself, Jenna muttered, making us all laugh. It was a small thing, that laughter. But after years when we'd only cried around each other, it felt like a miracle. As I got older, my body reminded me I was not the endless resource my 20s self thought I was. Arthritis in my hands made opening jars harder. Stairs made me breathe a little heavier. I had to ask for help with things I used to do without thinking. That was a new lesson. Being the helper is one identity. Being someone who needs help is another. At first I resisted. I've got it, I'd say when one of them reached for the heavy grocery bag. You've had it for too long, Lily said once, prying it from my grip. Let us carry something for once. I worried quietly about what would happen when I was gone. Guardianship ends when kids become adults. Legally, I was no longer responsible for them once they turned 18. But love doesn't end at a birthday. The old fear whispered. When you die, Jenna will pretend you didn't matter. She'll tell her grandchildren that she raised their parents alone. Your name will be a shadow. I caught myself in that fear and realized it was the same story I had been fighting for years. Being erased. Being invisible. I had to decide whether I trusted the people I had actually raised to hold my memory in their own hands. One day, Lily came over with a ring on her finger. She held out her hand, eyes shining. He asked, she said. I said yes. Joy bloomed in my chest. Do you like him? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. She had been with him for 3 years. I'd seen how he looked at her when she laughed. How he listened when she talked. I do, she said simply. He doesn't scare me. I don't feel like I have to be smaller near him. That was my bar. Not money. Not status. Safety. Wedding planning brought up all the old questions of who walks you down the aisle, and who sits in the front row, and who's in the family pictures. I tried to stay out of it. It was her day. One afternoon over coffee at my table, she said, I know you and Mom are both thinking about this. And I know it's weird, but I want you to hear this from me. You don't have to fight for a role. I've already decided. My stomach flipped. Okay, I said carefully. What have you decided? I want you and Mom to both walk me, she said. One on each side. Because I got here because of both of you. Different ways. Different times. But both. Tears sprang to my eyes. Are you sure? I asked. People will talk. They'll ask questions. They might judge. She shrugged. People always talk, she said. They talked when you got guardianship. They talked when Mom went to rehab. They talked when we chose to stay. Let them talk. This is my wedding. They can look at 2 women and 1 daughter and figure it out. Telling Jenna, that was one of the stranger conversations we've had. She came over, sat down, and Lily said it straight. I want both of you to walk me. Jenna burst into tears on the spot. I don't deserve that, she sobbed. I wasn't there. I ruined so much. And you're here now, Lily replied. You've been here these last years. You're part of the reason Aunt Diane survived chemo. You're part of why James didn't drop out when he wanted to. Your mistakes don't disappear. Neither does your effort. I'm not choosing between you. I'm choosing both. Deal with it. There was something in that stubbornness that reminded me so much of Jenna as a child. The difference was this time it was aimed at stitching, not tearing. On the wedding day, at the back of the aisle, I stood on Lily's right. Jenna stood on her left. We each held one of her arms. She looked ahead at her future. We looked at each other for a brief second. Something passed between us. An entire history compressed into one nod. Loss. Anger. Blame. Sobriety. Chemo. Courtrooms. Laughter. Dishes. Apologies. None of it disappeared. But for that walk, we were simply two women who loved the same person enough to share the moment. At the reception, someone asked me, So, are you her mom or her aunt? I smiled and said, Yes. They laughed, confused. I didn't elaborate. I didn't need to. It was enough that the three of us on that dance floor knew exactly what we meant to each other. If you're still here, I want you to think about something. We talk a lot about real parents. Real mom. Real dad. Real family. We argue about blood versus bond. Courts argue about it. Schools do. Churches. Neighborhoods. But when my niece gave her little toast at the reception, she didn't use the word real once. She said, Here's to the people who showed up, even when it was hard. That's all family really is. The people who keep coming back, not because they're perfect, not because they never failed, but because they decide over and over to try again. As for me, I have made my peace as much as anyone can. I wrote a will of my own. In it, I left what little I have, a small house, some savings, not just to Lily and James, but also instructions for stories to be told. Tell them about the time your mother fell asleep in the bathtub, and I had to fish you out of the apartment through the window. I wrote. Tell them about how she once drove across town at midnight to bring me soup when I was sick years later. Tell them both sides. Not to excuse, not to condemn. To show that people are not one thing. I don't know how much longer I have. None of us do. Some days my joints hurt more. Some days I forget where I put my keys. But I don't worry anymore about being erased. Not because Jenna won't try to soften her story, maybe, or because other relatives won't twist things. I don't worry because I've seen the way Lily looks at the kids she now volunteers with at that community center where Jenna works. I've heard how James says, my aunt raised me, without flinching when people ask about his parents. The truth is in them. They carry it in their choices, in their compassion, in their boundaries. If you are an aunt, a grandparent, a foster parent, a step-parent, or a neighbor who has ever loved a child through someone else's chaos, please hear this. You are not a placeholder. You are not a temporary stand-in spared for the credits. You are a chapter. Maybe several. Maybe the longest ones. You do not need a title to make that true. The children who go through your hands will feel the shape of your care long after anyone remembers who had which label on which day. And if you are the one who left and is trying to come back, remember this too. You don't erase the ones who stayed by standing in front of them and shouting, Mine. You honor them by standing next to them and saying, Thank you. Let me help now. That let me help now might come late. It might be awkward. It might be refused at first. But it is the only honest way through. My sister tried to erase me. Life and the kids wrote me back in. Not as the only name on the page. As one of many. That is enough. People think that once kids grow up and weddings happen and wills are written, the story is over. But family stories don't end. They just move a little further into the background. You stop being the main character in every scene. You become the person someone mentions when they say, She used to. And she always. And she would have loved this. That's not a sad role, if you let it be what it is. It's a kind of soft echo. The first time I felt like an echo was the day Lily called me from the hospital, her voice shaking and laughing at the same time. Guess what? She said. If you say you lost your keys again, I'm hanging up, I replied out of habit. I lost a lot more than that, she said. My dignity. My ability to sit comfortably. And about 7 pounds of baby. For a second, my brain couldn't catch up. Then it did. You had her, I whispered. You had the baby. I had her, she said. I could hear the smile in her voice. A girl. She's loud. She's perfect. I sat down right there on my kitchen chair, phone pressed to my ear. The room blurred. Is she okay? I asked. Are you okay? We're both okay, she said. And I wanted to tell you something before anyone else barges in here and yells about Grandma this and that. You're not just Aunt Diane to her. You're Grandma Dee. Whether you like it or not. I laughed and cried at the same time. You know that makes no sense on a family tree, I said. Makes perfect sense on ours, she replied. When I went to the hospital to meet the baby, I watched something I had never seen before. Jenna was already there, standing by the bassinet, looking down with a wonder that was not clouded by drugs or chaos. Her hair was streaked with gray now. Her hands shook a little, not from withdrawal, but from age and emotion. When she saw me in the doorway, she stepped aside. Come see your granddaughter, she said. No edge. No sarcasm. Just an invitation. I walked over and looked down. The baby was red and scrunched, fists balled up, eyes squeezed shut. She was nothing special if you had never met her. She was everything if you knew where she had come from. Hi, I whispered. Welcome to the most confusing and loving family you'll ever meet. Lily laughed weakly from the bed. She'll never be bored, she said. At some point, a nurse came in with bracelets to label us. Mom, baby, support person. She asked, who's Grandma? Lily looked at me and then at Jenna and said, both of them. The nurse raised an eyebrow. I can only print one name on the bracelet, she said. That's okay, Lily said. We don't need bracelets to know who we are. In that tiny moment, in that sterile room, I felt something settle in me. A lifetime of worrying about being erased or written over eased. This child would grow up hearing both our stories. Not as competing myths, but as parts of one bigger Messier truth. Years went by. Babies grew. I became Grandma Dee, in practice more than name. I watched little ones in my living room, picking up toys with hands that ached more than they used to. I went to school plays again, this time clapping for a new generation. I sat in bleachers while small voices called out, Grandma, and looked for me, not caring that other kids only had one woman answering to that title. When they drew family trees in class, their papers had extra branches. This is my mom, they'd say, pointing. And this is my other mom who isn't my mom but raised my mom. And this is my grandma who is my mom's mom. Teachers would frown at the paper, trying to untangle it. The kids would shrug. It makes sense to us. They'd say. As my body slowed, my world got smaller. I stopped driving at night. Stairs became my enemy. I fell once in the bathroom, and scared myself enough to admit I needed more help than a few grab bars. We made a plan. Not a rushed, panicked one forced by crisis. A slow, thoughtful one built over many cups of tea at my table. You always told us to plan before we have to, Jake said, now a tall man who could lift my grocery bags with one hand. We're just doing what you taught us. We looked at apartments with elevators, at senior communities with on-site nurses, at in-home care options. In the end, I chose a small assisted living place with a garden and a library. I don't want to be in the kids' pockets every day, I said. They have their own homes. I want somewhere that's mine where they can visit, and someone else can worry if I don't come down to breakfast. Moving there was bittersweet. I packed the same kind of boxes I'd packed for Lily when she left for college. Only this time, the roles were reversed. They labeled things for me. Towels. Books. Kitchen. Jenna helped. She wrapped my fragile dishes in newspaper carefully, humming to herself. At the facility, when we arrived, the staff greeted us with practiced warmth. We're happy to have you, one of them said. You brought quite the entourage. My niece, my nephew, my sister, a gaggle of kids. We filled the hallway. My room was small. A bed. A chair. A little table. A window that looked out over a courtyard where a bird feeder hung. What do you think? Jenna asked, placing my favorite blanket on the chair. I sat down, catching my breath. I think, I said slowly, it's strange and a little sad. But also okay. I've had a busy life. I'm allowed a quiet corner for the last chapters. Lily put a photo on the dresser. It was the one from her wedding. Me and Jenna on either side of her, all holding hands. So you don't forget us, she joked. As if I could, I replied. Life in that place was slower but not empty. I made friends. Women with stories that would make yours and mine seem simple. A former teacher whose son never visited. A widow who had outlived 3 husbands and still wore her hair up every day. A man who had been a mechanic for 50 years and could fix anything but his own loneliness. We played cards. We complained about the food. We talked about our kids and grandkids until our throats were dry. We shared tips on how to get the good nurse when you weren't feeling well. I became Aunt Diane, to some of them too, because I couldn't help myself. My family visited. Not as often as they meant to. No one ever visits as often as they mean to. But enough. Enough that I didn't become one of the stories whispered in the dining room about the woman whose family never came. They brought the children, now tall and loud. They brought news. New jobs. Breakups. Report cards. Pictures on phones of beaches and dogs and messy kitchens. Sometimes they brought problems. My landlord raised the rent, James would say. My boss is a jerk, Lily would confess. I'm scared I'm going to mess up with this kid the way I was messed up, she'd add, looking at her daughter. I gave advice when I had it. I shut up when I didn't. That was a new skill. 2.1 afternoon, when the sky was gray and my joints ached more than usual, I found myself alone with Jenna in my room. The kids had gone to get snacks. It was quiet. The TV was off. She sat in the chair, fidgeting with the edge of my blanket. Do you remember, she began, the day I dropped them off that first time and didn't come back for a week? Yes, I said. I remember every day of that year. She nodded. I still have nightmares about it, she said. In my dreams, they're crying at the window and I'm too high to walk back up the path. I wake up and I can't breathe. I looked at her. Good, I said softly. She blinked, surprised. Good, she repeated. Yes, I said. Because it means you're not numb. The worst thing that can happen to someone who's hurt others is to feel nothing about it. Pain isn't punishment. It's proof you're not the same person anymore. She stared at her hands. You think they'll ever really forgive me? She asked. I think they already have, in their own way, I replied. Doesn't mean they've forgotten. Doesn't mean you don't still owe them better days. Forgiveness isn't a free pass. It's a decision to keep walking together even when the road is cracked. She nodded slowly. I don't know how you did it, she said after a while. Raised them. Dealt with me. Got sick. Didn't just give up. I smiled. I didn't know either, I said. Most days I didn't feel strong. I just did the next small necessary thing. You call that strength when you look back. At the time it was just survival. She reached out then and took my hand. Her grip was warm and firm. Thank you, she said, for not letting them fall through the crack I made. Tears pricked my eyes. We sat like that for a long time. No court. No judge. No social worker. Just two sisters finally telling the truth without needing someone to write it down. When the end came for me, it wasn't dramatic. No beeping monitors. No last-minute confessions. Just a slow fading. My heart, which had beaten too fast through so many crises, finally got tired. I knew it was close when the nurses started checking on me more than on my crossword puzzles. One night, the doctor came in and sat on the edge of the bed. We're going to focus on comfort now, he said gently. I figured, I replied. I'm done with being poked. Let me nap. They called my family. People came. Not all at once. In shifts. That's how life had trained them. Lily sat on my left, grown woman now, but her hand on mine felt like the same little girl's hand that had reached for me in the dark after nightmares. James sat on my right, quieter as always, but his thumb stroked the back of my hand in a steady rhythm. Jenna stood at the foot of the bed, arms wrapped around herself, watching everything with eyes that had seen too much and not enough. I'm not going to say goodbye, Lily said at one point, tears streaking her face. I hate goodbyes. Then don't, I said, voice weak but amused. Say see you later in whatever comes next. What if nothing comes next? James asked bluntly. He'd always been like that. Direct. Then you'll still see me, I said. In the way you double-check your kids' homework. In the way you stop yourself from making promises you can't keep. In the way you look out for each other. People talk about legacy like it's money or buildings. It's not. It's how much of someone you carry into your own choices when they're not in the room. If you're listening to this and that makes you think of someone you've lost, take a second and write their name in the comments if you want. Not to impress anyone. Just to remind yourself they didn't disappear entirely. Pieces of them live where your habits are. Jenna came closer. I thought I'd get more time to make it up to you, she said, voice breaking. You did what you could with the time you had, I replied. That's all any of us do. The kids know you're trying. That's what matters now. Don't turn my leaving into another excuse to break yourself. You staying well is the best apology you can give. She nodded, tears hanging on her lashes. I had written a letter months before, when my hands were steadier. The staff helped me tuck it away in a drawer with instructions. Give this to them after, I said. Not before. I've got enough words as it is. In it, I didn't write any grand secrets. I didn't list who should get which piece of furniture. I wrote memories. Remember the time James put peanut butter in Jenna's hair? Remember when Lily stood up for that kid who was being bullied? I wrote one line in big letters for all of them. You were worth the effort. Sometimes the thing people need most is not, I love you. It's, you were worth it. I don't remember the exact last moment. I remember drifting. Light. Voices like underwater sounds. A nurse humming. A child laughing in the hallway. Then nothing. For me, that's where the story ends. For them, it didn't. I know from the way they've told it since, some of what happened after. They read the letter. They cried. They laughed at the peanut butter memory. They argued about who got my chipped blue mug that somehow became the mug. They planted a tree in the yard of Lily's house instead of buying a fancy tombstone I would never see. Aunt Dee would rather feed birds than marble, she said. They were right. At family gatherings now, when someone new comes in, a partner, a friend, a neighbor, and asks, "So how are you all related?" I'm told they still smile and say, "It's complicated," and then proceed to explain, in rushed sentences with overlapping corrections, how there was a mom who left and came back, an aunt who stepped in, a judge, some social workers, a lot of tears, a lot of spaghetti dinners, and somehow in all that, a family that refused to let any one person's worst day define the rest of their lives. That if you've stayed with my story through all these parts, you might be wondering what the lesson is. We like lessons. They make pain feel like it served a purpose. I don't know if I have a neat one for you. I can tell you what I know now, from however far away I am from that little house with the tree and the chipped mug. If you have the strength and stability to stand in the gap for a child, do it. Not because you'll be thanked. You might not. Not because you'll be given credit. You might be blamed instead. Do it because the ground under that child is giving way, and you are close enough to throw down a plank. But also know this, you are allowed to step off that plank when it becomes too heavy. You are allowed to say, "I need help," without losing your worth. You are allowed to be more than the one who holds everyone else up. And if you are the person who drove others to that edge with your chaos, and someone else stepped in for your kids, don't waste your second chances attacking them. Use your energy to build something beside them. Sit in the bleachers. Show up to birthdays. Take the late-night calls when a teenager wants advice you never got. Let your kids love both of you loudly. Let that hurt if it must. Hurt is better than emptiness. It means there's still something left to grow around. Years after I was gone, the tree they planted for me in Lily's yard had grown taller than the roof. I know that because they said so when they sent each other pictures. "Look how big Grandma Dee's tree is getting," one of the kids would write in the family group chat. They hung a swing from one of the branches. They tied ribbons on it for birthdays. They sat under it when the summer heat was too much. That tree saw more of their lives than I ever could. That's how it should be. Some things outlive us so they can keep watching when we can't. Lily's daughter, the little red and scrunched baby I met in the hospital, grew into a girl with big questions. One day, when she was about 8, she came home from school with a crumpled worksheet. "We had to do a family tree," she said, throwing her backpack down. "Mine was wrong." Lily picked up the paper. It had the usual boxes. "Mom, Dad, Grandma, Grandpa, what makes it wrong?" Lily asked. "We don't fit," her daughter said, frustrated. "There's only one space for Grandma. I had to pick. I put you and Daddy at the bottom, because that's where parents go. But for Grandma I didn't know. Should I put Mom's mom? But then where does Grandma Dee go?" She looked almost angry. "They said I could write her in the back. Like extra information. She's not extra. She's a real person." Lily sat down on the floor next to her. "Can I tell you a secret?" she asked. "Trees are for the school. Stories are for us. The tree is a sketch. Our real family is a painting. Sometimes you can't fit all the colors in the little boxes. That doesn't mean they don't exist." Her daughter frowned. "So what do I do when they ask again?" she persisted. "You tell them the same thing I told teachers when I was your age," Lily said. "You say, 'My family is complicated.' Then you decide which pieces you want to put on their paper and which ones you keep inside." "Why is it so complicated?" the girl asked. "Because people are," Lily answered simply. "We made mistakes. We also made you. You're worth the complication." James eventually moved out. He got his HVAC certification like he'd planned. He started his own little business with a beat-up van and a logo his niece designed in art class. "James's Heating and Air," it said. "Honest work, no surprises." He laughed when she showed him. "You don't think that's too on the nose?" he asked. "Our family earned no surprises," she said. "People like that. On his first day, he posted a picture of his van on social media with the caption, "For all the times we were cold and didn't know where the money was going. Not this time." In the comments, Lily wrote, "Grandma D would be so proud." Jenna wrote, "And so am I." James replied with 3 heart emojis and a wrench. That's how men in my family say feelings now. Through tools and pictures and small acts. Jenna kept working at the community center. Some days she came home and cried. "They're me," she'd say to Lily on the phone. "These moms. These dads. These kids who show up hungry to an after-school program because there's nothing in the fridge at home. I see my worst days staring back at me in their faces. Then be the person you wish had walked into our house 20 years ago," Lily would tell her. Not the one with answers. The one with time. It wasn't easy. She slipped sometimes. Not back into substances. Back into shame. Into thinking she had no right to be in helping roles because of her past. "Who am I to tell anyone how to parent?" she'd say. "Someone who's done it wrong and is learning to do it better," her sponsor would remind her. "Those are the only ones I listen to anyway." One afternoon, Lily's daughter came home and threw herself face down on the couch. "I hate my mom," she declared, voice muffled in the pillow. Lily raised an eyebrow. "That's new," she said. "What did I do?" "You told me I couldn't go to that party," her daughter said, flipping over dramatically. "Everyone else gets to go. You're so overprotective. Grandma Jenna says you're just like Aunt Dee was with her. Controlling. Maybe I'd be more fun if you hadn't been raised by someone so strict." Lily took a slow breath. There it was. Generational echo. "Okay," she said slowly. "Let's separate some things. 1, you can hate my rule. That's allowed. 2, you can not like me right now. Also allowed. 3, saying you hate me is a big thing. It doesn't actually change the rule. You're still not going to that party. But I hear that you're angry." Her daughter rolled her eyes. "You're doing the therapist voice," she muttered. "I'm doing the I've been 16 and stupid voice," Lily corrected. "Grandma D told me no to a lot of stuff too. I thought she was ruining my life. She was actually trying to keep me alive long enough so I could come complain to you about it one day." The girl snorted despite herself. "Fine," she said. "I still think you're overdoing it." "I can live with that," Lily said. "One day you'll have your own stubborn child, and then you can come yell at me about how unfair the world is together." Later that evening, after the storm had passed and the dishes were done, Lily sat on her back step under the tree and looked up. "You passed the torch," she said softly into the leaves. "I'm trying not to drop it. That is all any of us ever do, really. Try not to drop what was handed to us. Sometimes what we're handed is heavy and sharp. Sometimes it's soft and warm. Most of the time, it's both." Every so often at family gatherings, someone would ask one of the kids, now adults, about me. An in-law. A new friend. "What was your aunt like?" And I'm told they say different things depending on the day. "She was loud when we needed it and quiet when we didn't," Lily might say. "She made good spaghetti and terrible pancakes." James might add, "She had this look that could stop you from lying mid-sentence." Jenna would chime in, "She was the only person I couldn't charm or bully into letting me off the hook. And thank God for that. They don't say, she stole us. They don't say, she saved us, either. They say she was there." That, to me, is the highest praise a person like me can get. If you're still listening, maybe because you see some of your own reflection in mine, I want to leave you with one last thing. We live in a world that loves labels. Mother, aunt, foster, step, legal guardian, bio. Those labels matter in court and on forms. They can matter in how we're paid or not paid. But the kids you feed and listen to and lose sleep over and cheer for don't remember you in labels. They remember you in moments. The time you picked them up when no one else came. The time you told them, "You can mess up and I'll still be here." The time you apologized when you got it wrong. The time you stood in front of a judge and let them choose you even though you knew it would shatter your sister's heart. You cannot control what anyone writes about you later. On paperwork. On social media. In whispered family gossip after you're gone. You cannot stop someone from trying to erase you to make their own story hurt less. What you can do is live in such a way that the people who were actually there carry your name, your laugh, your warnings, your comfort, your stubbornness in their own bones. Erasing that is a lot harder than crossing out a name on a piece of paper. So if you've stood in a gap that wasn't meant for you, if you've mothered without the title, if you've been called just the aunt or just the sitter or just helping out, and you know in your heart that you were more than that, I see you. The children you've loved will one day, in some small act, telling their own kid no, helping a neighbor, reading a bedtime story when they're exhausted, repeat you. They may not even know they're doing it. But you'll be there. In the echo. And if you are the one trying to come back from a long absence, watching someone else get Mother's Day cards you feel should be yours, remember this. You don't get your place back by ripping theirs away. You get it by standing in the new gap they can't reach. Maybe that's sitting with your grandchild while your child rests. Maybe it's taking a late-night call from a teen you once disappointed and saying, "I'm here," and meaning it this time. That's how you write yourself back in. Not in capital letters over someone else's paragraph. In your own new sentences added with care. Family stories are never finished. They just change narrators. I've had my turn at the microphone. I've told you my side from where I am. One day, maybe Lily will tell hers to someone sitting at a kitchen table, feeling like they're the only one holding up the sky. And maybe she'll end the way I will now, with the same simple truth my life kept teaching me over and over. You don't have to be the one who does everything. But if you are, for a while you're not nothing. You are the reason someone else gets a chance to become something.